Ah, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Mr. Gopal.
How are you doing?
And friends.
I sent you something earlier. Did you receive it? Little package.
Hare Krishna, Mother Guru.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Okay. Oh, it's 8 o'clock. Maybe we can get started. I think he was connected. He was having some issues earlier. Unfortunately, they're having power outage today in their place in, in Syracuse. So it's like double whammy. Okay, so I'll just get started with Kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhara Shiva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Om Vishnupad Puraman Supari Prajapacharya Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Namacharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Gun Radha Kunikiti Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jamunamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Again, welcome to all. If your name is something like iPhone or 6472169, you might consider renaming yourself with something a little more personal. We'll all be muted except for me, but if you'd like to jump in with a question or a comment, feel free to unmute yourself and to turn your video on if it's not already on. We don't seem to have had problems with bandwidth and video, so that's good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And we're starting with text 1:18:32. Chat seems to be blocked, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Maybe you can check that out. At least it is for me. I can't write anything.
Okay, that's unusual. I'll take a look.
Okay. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Maharaj Parikshit had returned to his palace with doubts in his mind about his having insulted the sage. And the scene has shifted. Sutta Goswami has shifted the scene to the powerful son of a Brahmin who was playing with his inexperienced friends and heard about the insult given to his father. So now the boy, Shringi, speaks. Aho, adharma palanam, pivnam palibhujamiva, swamin yagham yad dasanam, dwarapanam shunamiva. Oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like crows and watchdogs at the door, perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants. Prabhupada comments that the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, the brains and the arms are supposed to work together by a natural arrangement, and that naturally the son of a Brahmin had a good chance to become a Brahmin by the direction of his qualified father, as the son of a medical practitioner has a very good chance to become a qualified medical practitioner. But the son has to take advantage of the opportunity. He can't become a Brahmin or a doctor without being qualified. And herein, and this is for me a very significant line, herein Sringi, a qualified son of a great Brahmin, attained the required Brahminical power, both by birth and by training. But he was lacking in culture because he was an inexperienced boy. By the influence of Kali, the son of a Brahmin became puffed up with Brahminical power and thus wrongly compared Maharaj Parikshit to crows and watchdogs. And this is the beginning of the deterioration of the Brahminical caste or Brahminical culture. It starts with this puffed up son of a Brahmin. So he had power, he had training, but he was lacking in culture. Lacking in culture. It's not just that birth, and it's not even just some formal training or even possession of knowledge, but one needs to become cultured. In the Bhagavad Gita, the items of knowledge are described. Amanitvam, adambitvam, himsa, kshantir arjavam, acharjo pasanam shocham, staryam atma vinigraha, indriyarteshu vairagyam, anahankaram evacha, janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanudarshana, asakta anabhishvanga, putra dara grihadishu, nityam cha samachitta tvam ishtanishto papatishu, Mai chananya yogena bhaktiravya vicharini vivikta sevi vivikta desha sevitvam atatir janasangsati adhyatma jnanam nityatvam tattva gyan artha darshana etaj jnanam iti proktam agyanam yadatonyata. The Krishna outlines these items of knowledge, and the first item is amanitva, humility. This knowledge, the Acharya's comment that this was the process of knowledge. This is one needs to cultivate these qualities. And the very first one is humility. Without humility, we don't even get in the door. Amanitva, amanina, amanadena. Amanitvam, humility. And the second one is adambitvam, to be free from arrogance. So this is the beginning of culture. Culture, even our cultural norms, that is to say, there are proper ways to act, ways that are recognized in society as proper conduct. And they teach us these, or they guide us in this way. So for example, one is respectful to elders. That requires that we be a little humble, or at least act with some humility. If a person is insulting to his elders, that's a sign of lack of culture. Even now it's become different in America these days in some places, some families, but at least the way I grew up, you never referred to your parents by first name. I couldn't have imagined, saying to my mother, Gloria. It's just like we're not on first name basis. Why? Because the mother is in a superior position, the father is in a superior position. Now I hear it often that parents, children are calling parents by their first name, referring to them by first name. But this is considered, at least in the Vedic estimation, and even in the former days of American culture, to be quite rude, because it means presumptuous, that instead of being respectful, I'm assuming a higher position for myself. That's not good. So culture begins with humility. And then there's so many other things, ahimsa, nonviolence, which Prabhupada usually glosses as holding back and not giving Krishna consciousness. That's himsa, and ahimsa is the opposite, to give Krishna consciousness. Kshanti, to be tolerant. Arjavam, to be straightforward. Acharya pashanam, to accept the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Shocham, to be clean. Bhaya Bhyantara Shuchi. Shocham, Kshanti Arja Mevacha. Charja Pashanam Shocham. Then Atma Vinigraha. Charju Pashanam Styram, steadiness, I think. Atma Vinigraha, self-control. Indriyarteshu Vairagyam, to be detached from over-engagement and sense gratification. Anahankara Evacha, to be free from false ego. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam, to always be aware of the pitfalls of, or not the pitfalls, the miseries of birth, death, disease, and old age. Then, Asakta bin, I might as well read it from this 13th chapter. Yeah. Indrayarteshu Vairagyam, Anahankar. Then, Asaktir and Abhishvanga Putradara Grihadashu. Prabhupada translates this or comments, not to be more attached to wife, children, and other families than ordained, other family members than ordained in the revealed scriptures. Some attachment, but not more, not excessive. Nityam cha samachittatvam, to be even-minded. Ishtanishto upatishu, when we get what we want or we don't get what we want. Then the most important item, Mayi chananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharani, to be engaged in devotional service, unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without that, everything else becomes useless. Vivikta desha sevitvam, to live in a secluded place. Everybody's doing that now. Adatir Jana Samsiddhi. Adatir Jana Samsiddhi. Not to be, to avoid crowds, to avoid hanging out with materialistic people. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana, to be always engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam, to see on the platform of spiritual truth. Etaj Jnana, this is knowledge, iti proktam, and everything else is rubbish. Ajnanam yadatonyata. So we see that the Brahmin boy didn't even get to the beginning. Amanitva, a little Brahma Tejas, a little bit of power, and he's puffed up. He's just a child. He's not experienced. With experience, if one is properly guided, comes culture. Prabhupada one time said, I want all of my disciples to go to and spend some time in India and become cultured. Because there, Prabhupada said, the Vedic culture, he said, dead or alive, it's worth like an elephant. Dead or alive, it's worth a lakh. So even though the Vedic culture, Prabhupada observed, was not entirely intact, still it was there. underlying things in India. An example I've given several times. One time in Juhu, I had an engagement in the evening, preaching engagement. You're supposed to go out and do a program. And Dr. Radhakrishna Prabhu, some of you know from Chopati, was managing the thing. So he came up to me in the room where I was staying, and he said, Maharaj, whenever you want to go, the car is ready. Whenever you want to go, the car is ready. So what did that mean? I translated it back to him in American English. Maharaj, everybody's in the car and we're all waiting for you. That's what it would have been in America. But because Radhakrishna Prabhu is a very cultured person, the car is ready whenever you want to go. Whenever you want to go, the car is ready. So this is culture. Sannyasi is supposed to be in a superior position, so we're not bossing him around, but we're letting him know in a polite way what the situation is. And there's so many things that are there as culture. And especially it begins with amanina manadena. Even if a person may be not so experienced in the details of various cultural practices, if he's humble and not arrogant, then everybody will appreciate him. Yes, he's very nice, just like Nard Muni. The sages, when Nard Muni in his previous life was a servant boy, he was coming from an undistinguished heritage, and he was just a servant boy, but he wasn't talkative. He wasn't inclined toward playing. He was very obedient. And so the sages liked him. He was a very nice boy. Didn't matter that he wasn't highly educated or wasn't coming from a great family, son of a Shudrani. But because he was humble, the sages thought he was a very nice boy. About Sutta Goswami also. Veta tvam somya tat sarvam tattvatas tadanugrahat. Bruyu snigdhasya shishasya guruve gurumapyuta. The Veta tvam, you know all of the details of Vedic knowledge or spiritual philosophy because you're very gentle. Somya. Tattvatas tadanugrahat. Your spiritual masters have bestowed upon you all of the knowledge reserved for a submissive disciple. Bruyu snigdhasya shishasya. Snigdha means very nice, very gentle, very obedient. Bruyu snigdhasya shishasya guruve gurumapyuta. So this is the beginning of culture, and this boy didn't have it. He had some knowledge, he had some training, he had some power, but he didn't know what to do and what not to do because he was not cultured. And we've seen that. I could give some examples from ISKCON's history where people, because of a lack of culture or a lack of humility, ran away with themselves. They got, pride got the better of them, or position got the better of them, and they ran into serious difficulty because of lack of cultural understanding. How a person in the situation I'm in should be acting. And therefore Maya entered. So here Maya enters through a little Brahmin boy. Are there some questions or comments? Oh, we've got a comment in the comment box. Maybe, Madan Gopal, you can keep an eye on that comment box for me because I don't always notice it. Katya says, Last time I asked how Shringi is inexperienced, but now I wonder how he was qualified. He's puffed up, can't check his anger, doesn't have sufficient knowledge. So some qualification is there. The Brahmin, he must have had some education. Typically the Brahmin boys, they receive the Brahmin thread, which signifies beginning of education. They're instructed in, well, we don't know exactly what Shringi was instructed in, something about sacrifices, something about mantras, something about this, something about that. But he was missing. Yes, Suman says his culture, does it signify character? Yes, and that's the most important thing. Therefore, what do they learn at the Gurukul? Brahmachari Gurukule Vasan Danta Gurorhitam. How to control the senses, how to take the position of a humble servant, and how to act for the uh, benefit of the Guru. That's the beginning. Not that he goes to Gurukul, he learns these mantras, he learns these meters, he learns this, music and instruments. He learns how to control his senses. He learns how to act as a servant. He learns how to respect the Guru. Even if he's a king's son, even if he comes from very noble or learned family, he becomes, even our Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he goes to the Gurukul and he becomes a servant. And he undergoes so much trouble for the service of his Guru Maharaj. So this is the training, this is culture. And without that culture, and now it's just lost. Culture begins, first of all, with 4 regulative principles: no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating, no illicit sex. Where's the culture if we're, meat eater means mlecha, means a degraded person, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex. Now people go to the schools and colleges, that's what they learn. If they're not already trained in these things, that's what they learn in college. How to take drugs, how to take liquor, how to have illicit sex, how to become degraded. Just the opposite of our actual culture, because that's what you learn in college. It's not just that you learn physics or you learn mathematics or you learn engineering or you learn law. You learn culture. And neither the teachers nor the students are cultured, rather just the opposite. And so one learns their way of life, which has become unspeakably degraded. Unspeakably degraded. All Kali, it's like, you can take off the names from the college, just make it Kali Yuga University. Because these are the things where Kali is allowed to stay. They're all there in my school, in my college. So how degraded things have become from the real standard of Gurukul, humility, Atma Vinigraha, the self-control, to a so-called culture where it's all about sense gratification and really animal life. Something else? I can add another item, just to practice, because culture does mean humility. Culture means knowing how to treat others. And there are so many things that are cultural values. Mr. Host, can you enable screen sharing for me?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Could I have screen sharing?
Hare Krishna Yashodhalaltas Endavats.
Hare Krishna Yashodhalaltas. Madan Gopal Prabhu, could you enable screen sharing for me?
Maharaj, I think you should be able to just share your screen by clicking on the green button at the bottom.
I should be able, but except that the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Right now, Maharaj.
Get caught when you leave it like that, you know.
Yes, now we're good. So the, let me see how I move things to the right place. Just a practical thing from the world of the coronavirus. Let's see, let me move that down. This was the big worry. Is the screen showing? Yes? I can't tell from
Yes,
my.
Maharaj.
Yes.
Okay. This was
Yes,
the
Maharaj.
big panic in the coronavirus. People were flocking to the stores and buying out all the toilet paper, because if we run out of toilet paper, what will we do? It'll be like the end of the world. Let's see, in fact, yeah. So of course, we have an answer to that. Srila Prabhupada said, without lota, there's no question of Brahminical life. Simple thing. I remember I read someplace, I couldn't find it when I looked, but there was a comment from the time of the Raj, there'd been some gathering of distinguished British people in Calcutta, I think it was, and one cultured Indian lady was in attendance. And you know, their proceedings are all going on. And but she remarked, or she wrote later, that I couldn't help thinking that all of these distinguished ladies and gentlemen are sitting on their unwashed bottoms. So Prabhupada said, without lota, there's no question of Brahminical culture. What is that? Shocha. In Bhagavad Gita, among the items of Acharyopasanam, Shocha. I can always, when I go and visit people's homes, Indian homes especially, it's like a sign that a family has become westernized when there's no lota in the toilet room. From the ecological point of view, by the way, Americans use 36.5 billion rolls of toilet paper a year, which amounts to 15 million trees, 473 billion gallons of water, and so on. One roll, 140 liters. To make papers is a very water-intensive process. So they're wasting enormous amounts of natural resources for something completely unnecessary, and in fact, a way of personal hygiene, which is unclean. So this is also, there are the big things and there are the smaller things, or what would you say, the less, that's not a small thing actually. There's so many things that go to making up culture. Yes. The yeah, any comments or questions here?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So
Hare Krishna.
at this point, how could or how should Shringi have responded? So the way he responded obviously was uncultured and not correct. He was cursing the saintly king, but he came in, he sees this dead snake around the neck of his holy father. How is he supposed to react, or how could he have done it?
Well, we see how his father reacted. His father didn't take it seriously at all. We'll find in the coming verses, his father sees the snake and just tosses it off to the side. It's not a big deal. But this is the business of the, the self-righteous. isn't it? We see this self-righteousness that somebody knows something and carries it to elevates it to campaign status, in large part to become the center of authority, to be to increase his own importance. Starts talking about, these people are doing this and these people are doing that, and who do these people think they are, and what gave them the right to do this, and what that, and what this, and they're talking about temple presidents and GBC members and leading devotees and people who are like practicing Krishna consciousness before they were born. I read that letter last time. Someone who is saying, how could you say good words about this Vaishnav who was, serving Krishna and serving Prabhupada when I was, probably before I was born, or at least while I was, living the life of a dog. How could I, praise him? What are these people thinking? What are people thinking? So they become, as we see here with Shringi, and we'll see more about this as the story unfolds, that they become so puffed up, Prabhupada uses the term, with their own importance, the importance of their community, their group, their Brahmins, and their personal power, and also the power of their invective, the power of their words. Dwarapanam, they should keeping their Dwarapanam shunam eva. They're supposed to be like watchdogs at the door. But now they become like crows, Bali Bujam eva. They dare enter the house. The watchdog doesn't just enter the house and offend the master. No, he sits there and obediently barks. So he's comparing this exalted king, Maharaj Pariksit, to a crow, to a dog, and he thinks that he's and his inexperienced friends, we can imagine that they're thinking, yeah, stick it to him. Or else they're just too bewildered to know what to say because they're inexperienced. So that's another sign of Kali, that people become arrogant, and arrogance is accepted as a sign of advancement. If someone's expert at insulting others, which is a characteristic of the mode of ignorance, what is that? Comes later in Bhagavad Gita. Nice critico lashaha. Nice critica. Anyway, nice critica. Those in the mode of ignorance, they're expert in insulting others. So that becomes esteemed in Kali Yuga. If somebody's expert at insulting his opponents, expert at insulting even his friends, that's taken as, yeah, a great sign. And Kali Yuga, of course, Kali has now gone digital. So these things are going on. So your question, what should Shringi have done? Of course, what he does later is he cries and he wakes up his father. He could have done that first, and before he makes a show of prowess and curses the king. But no, he takes matters into his own hands. What authority does he have? He's a little twerp, a little punk kid. But he's going to punish the king of the country. The Kshatriya, the Brahmins are supposed to be the well-wishers, the advisors, the guides for the king, and the kings are the protectors of the Brahmins so that the Brahmins can perform their prescribed duties properly. But now this little puffed up twerp is going to curse the king. And that becomes the downfall of Brahminical culture also. if the Kshatriyas are, what's the word, kneecapped, then who will protect the Brahmins? Or who will see that the Brahmins are performing their prescribed duties with everything that they need? So he's because he's the head, he's going to cut off the arms. It's foolishness. It's foolishness. So less cultured. Is that all right?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Something else? Even we see that for a cultured person, so many things, like Prabhupada said, what is that? Chanakya Pandit, Matravat Paradareshu, to treat all women apart from one's wife as a mother. This is culture. Paradravyeshu Oshtava, to treat others' property as if it were garbage in the street. And Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu, to see all others to be like oneself. Yapashyati Sa Pandita, he's a wise person. Wisdom isn't just that you passed an exam, but this culture is there. And for a cultured person like Prabhupada, he could say things that were, what would you say, that put women in their place, and no woman would complain, because he was such a gentleman. Prabhupada said several times that this is the sign of a Vaishnava. He's a perfect gentleman. That others, they may or may not know your philosophy, but they see how you act. Are you like a cultured person, or are you like a, what's the word? A barbarian, a boor, a crude, rude person. So the sign of a Vaishnava is that he's a cultured person. He offers respects to others. He doesn't look for respect for himself. Here, Shringi is just the opposite. He's insulting and cursing a highly respectable person, and he's seeking glory for himself by doing so. So just uncultured, totally lacking in culture. And that reformation is needed. How to, therefore, brahmachari guru kule vasantanta gururhita, Gurukul education. It's not, you take, people who've been to the best prep schools, and then they go to the best universities, and then they become president of the United States, and then they and then they have sex with their secretaries. Because they didn't learn the first page of the text, that to control the senses, to see all other women as mother, not to be alone with women. There's so many things that a cultured person learns. And these people don't even have a clue. They don't even know that they're missing something. They think this is, my predecessor presidents, this is what they did, I'll also enjoy. Uncultured. A Sanskrita Krita, what is that? A Sanskrita Kriya Hina. In the 11th canto, there's a description of what the kings become in Kali Yuga. A Sanskrita, unreformed, unrefined, untrained. Kriya Hina, lacking in proper conduct. Pakshi Shanti Te Praja, just devouring the citizens. And this all begins with this puffed up son of a Brahmin. More?
There's a question in the chat box, Maharaj.
Question in the chat box. Prabhupada also, by the way, I saw several times that he would speak to the Indian people particularly to keep their culture. To keep their culture. Don't lose your culture. Because we see that, a Gujarati gentleman gets on the airplane from Bombay, and as soon as we take off, he's drinking, he's eating meat. These things are going on. That you come to England, you come to America, and then you become something else. Or even during the British time, or still later, the Indians were emulating the Sahibs, the British. Even I saw that when I first went to Japan, I was so surprised. I expected to see some remnant of Japanese culture, and it was all American. It's all blue jean, young boys and girls in blue jeans, and being more American than the Americans were. There's a culture there, a Japanese culture, but totally lost or undiscernible, because it's just wiped out by this false American way of life. All right, let's see what's in the chat box. Krishna Rupa says, I can testify that from my experience at university, even the most sophisticated professors promote breaking the regulative principles. In trying to share Krishna consciousness with such persons who are highly respectable in their work, what is the best way to offer our sincere, humble respect to them while being aware of the immoralities they maintain and propose? Why offer them our sincere, humble respect? Superficially, just like Vasudev was speaking with great respect, because he knew how heinous Kamsa was, how vicious, trying to, ready to kill his sister at the time of his marriage, of her marriage. But because of the situation, he had to act, give him respect, and so on. So what kind of teachers? Cheaters. They're not even, I even saw that I had, when I was just in grade school, we had a teacher, a science teacher, who he wore a white shirt that befitting a scientist, and a pack of Salems in his shirt pocket. So this was before, smoking became terrible. But, we were smart enough to know that this guy is stupid. He's inhaling smoke, and he can't control, he's got a habit. We wouldn't have said can't control his senses, but we knew that he had a habit that he couldn't control. And he's our teacher. So what kind of teacher? Prabhupada said, cheater. So we offer them superficial respect because they don't deserve more. Or we offer them respect for their mundane knowledge, but that's it. Ideally, we offer them respect from a distance. We don't even go there. That's another discussion. Is that okay? I was speaking to a group of students in India. I keep forgetting the name of that. It's a university town. They have especially medical colleges there, a little bit to the south. I always think of Nainital, but it's not Nainital at all. It's a totally different place.
Manipal?
Manipal. Thank you. It's a little bit similar. Thank you, Praveen. Manipal. And I was saying how degraded our American universities were, and the things they do there, and so on. Just sort of painting a picture of, well, you're more fortunate because at least you're in India. They said, no, all of this is here also. The same thing. They go to school in India, and also they learn how to become cats and dogs. So this is the unfortunate situation in Kali Yuga. And instead of going to the place of the guru and learning to control the senses, they go to the university and learn how to get drunk and have sex. like cats and dogs. And we won't get more detailed than that. Vijay Krishna says, Sankarshan says, how to respond to a situation where someone who is your senior is critical of one of their peers and you know that what they are saying is unjustified. Well, there are different ways. If it's a serious matter, you may leave. When Shishupal was blaspheming Krishna at the Rajasuya Yajna of Maharaj Yudhisthira, many of the sages and others in attendance just left the assembly covering their ears. I remember I had to do that. There was one class where one of our very senior members, this was many, many years ago, was mocking one of the very senior godbrothers of Srila Prabhupada. And, just mocking him. And I just left, I got up and, I listened for, a moment, a few moments, and then, I saw where it was going. I just got up and left because that's what you do. If it's that egregious, don't stay there and in that toxic environment. Just get up and go. Otherwise, if it's mild criticism, all right, seniors are entitled to criticize their peers. We look at it and we say, all right, this is, as they say, above my pay grade. This is above my level. And that's the advice, that when your parents are having an argument or when your seniors are in disagreement with one another, we just look at that and say, well, this is going on at a level above me, so I don't get involved in these things. But if it's really egregious kind of criticism, better to go, better not even to be there. Vijay Krishna asks, related to arrogance, in Bhagavad Gita 16.4, pride, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance are listed as the qualities belonging to those of demonic nature. Why is it that these qualities offer no more? Sorry, somebody came in and asked another question and knocked this off my screen. No fault of theirs. No more. Why is it these qualities offer no more and no less than hellish life? How to describe life in hell? Well, for life in hell, you can read 5th canto. Of course, even now, what is life in hell? Life is where you're surrounded by toxic viruses that can, drown your lungs in phlegm and pus and kill you. But the hellish planets themselves are described in the 5th canto. Why no less? Because these things lead to hellish life. Why should it be less? Why no more? I don't know what more would be. Asrim yonim apanna mudha janmani janmani mama pratyaiva kontya tato yantyadamam gatim. Those who are viciously demonic, Krishna says again and again, Asurim yonim apanna mudha janmani janmani. I put them into demonic wombs again and again. That's appropriate. Why is the word crow used in this context? What character is the crows? If you throw out your leaf plates after taking prasadam, then the crows all descend, ka, 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 and they go after the garbage. They're garbage collectors. A swan is like a beautiful bird that glides across a lake, and a crow is a bird that makes a lot of noise, makes a racket, and competes for garbage. So see that he's comparing the Paramahansa king to a crow. And he thinks that he's smart, he's impressing his friends. Was there something lacking in Shringi's education that resulted in his inexperience? Panchatattva asks. Was it lacking due to his, or was it lacking due to his youthful immaturity? What about Prahlad Maharaj, only 5 years old, and yet showing all the good qualities and maturity, even of a perfectly cultured person? Yeah, Prabhupada said that one becomes Vridha, one becomes an elder by knowledge. So even though Prahlad was 5 years old, he was like a respectable elder because he knew, because he was a pure devotee of the personality of Godhead. Of course, this is all a setup that Shringi is part of the drama that Krishna has arranged, by which Maharaj Parikshit will renounce the world and Shukadev Goswami will speak Srimad Bhagavatam for our benefit. So that's ultimately, or from one point of view, why Shringi did this. But obviously there's something lacking, you know, if somebody starts behaving like this. I can think of people in my recent experience, some young twerp punk of a kid, you know, who's wasn't even initiated, I think, or maybe he was first initiation or something. And he's just so arrogant by his speech that, you know, it wasn't for me to say, well, was it your parents' fault, or, you know, were you hanging out with the wrong crowd, or did you go to the wrong school, or, you know, did you have some terrible experience in your childhood, or you've been smoking dope, or, you know, that who can analyze the cause? But you see the result, you see the outcome. You say this person is an arrogant little upstart, an arrogant little upstart. And we see lots of such arrogance in the world today, and even what should we say, within what should be a society of pure devotees, we sometimes see people behaving these ways, in this fashion. So this is Kali Yuga trying to, the personality of Kali trying to get a foothold by taking advantage of uncultured persons. Even Prabhupada gave an example. He had problems with his Sanskrit scholars. They would learn Sanskrit, and Prabhupada said, as soon as they know a little Sanskrit, they think that they're better than Guru Maharaj. They get some Sanskrit education, they learn some declensions and some grammar, and then they think that they're better than the spiritual master. So it means culturally lacking. As someone had commented earlier, character. A person of perfect character, he's so respectful to the Guru, he's so adherent to the lotus feet of the Guru. And a person who's becomes puffed up by a little acquired education, some mundane knowledge, he thinks he's more than Guru Maharaj. So Prabhupada gave that example. Related to the 3 gates leading to hell, we're just about out of time here. Lust, anger, and greed. This is Vijay Krishna. What to do in order to distance myself from these 3 gates? Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Amanina Manadena, Kirtanistidari. That's how we keep Kali at bay in this age, by chanting the Maha mantra. Kali Kale Namarupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna appears in Kali Yuga in the form of his holy name. And by taking shelter of the holy name, we can be freed from the influence of Kali.
Maharaj,
Yes, Nilmani Prabhu.
just a thought I had that you were talking about how uncultured Shringi was. Not that Parikshit Maharaj is really could be thought of as uncultured, but I believe he was hunting, right? Or he was in a hunting trip when this whole event occurred, right? Now, by today's standards, we would, as devotees, consider hunting as, I don't know, not uncultured, but not something that...
But Prabhupada explained that for the Kshatriyas, this is not an improper activity. they had to stay in shape because the Kshatriyas, they're not going to be, they're going to be facing real life enemies. They're going to be facing people with weapons and power, and they have to stay fit and ready to deal with such enemies. So they would go to the forest and they would hunt, but they wouldn't be like the cowards who, they go out into the forest and they build a blind somewhere and they've got a rifle with a scope that can train on an animal from 100 meters or something, and then they shoot the animal and make a show. Prabhupada gave the example of the Jaipur Raj. If you go even now to the museum at Jaipur, you can see these tiger knives. Some of you may have been to Jaipur and seen tiger knives. The king would personally go out and fight with a tiger, and he wouldn't have more than this very sharp and very deadly knife, but against a tiger, tigers are serious business. So that was the king, that he would, and then he would kill the tiger, and the tiger would be brought back to the city and given in royal procession and given cremation. So the tiger was honored even. But this was the duty of the king. The hunting was not outside of his prerogatives. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Now they don't do that. Now they're just woman hunters.
Yeah, more tiger hunter.
So we want leaders who are like Parikshit Maharaj. They're seeking after Krishna. Cultured, perfectly cultured persons. Therefore, Prabhupada said that it's not a religion. It's philosophy and culture. Culture doesn't just mean you put on a show, that we have people who are expert with mridanga and kartals, and we have some girls who dance nicely, and we have some good musicians, and we put on a drama. That's also cultural performance, and that's all right. But culture goes deep. It goes into how I behave with my family members, how I behave with my wife, with my children, with my other relatives, with my employer, with my students, with strangers, and ultimately, in my personal habits, the way I eat, the regulative, like Prabhupada said, Brahman means that after eating, he washes his hands and his feet and his mouth and the place where he took his food. He said, "You Westerners, they just eat and then they wipe their hands on their jeans, and that's their culture." Or like a cultured person, you won't see him walking down the street eating. Right? It's just a sign of being uncultured. You sit down properly and you eat. Not that you're, so many things go into culture. Even the most, basic functions that we perform, our personal habits, our interactions with other people. Even simple thing, Hayagriva one time, 26 2nd Avenue, he just moved a clock with his foot. That was, moved it from one place to another with his foot. Prabhupada said, "Don't do that." Hayagriva said, "Do you mean to say the clock is more holy than my foot?" Prabhupada said, "Yes. It's Krishna's property. Therefore, a cultured person knows that with my foot, I don't move things. I don't kick Krishna's property around with my foot." Or another thing, sometimes you see, probably you've all seen this, that someone's got something, a cell phone or, whatever it is, something, and he puts it down on top of a book. Right? Have you seen that? but the book is like a incarnation of Saraswati. Any book. So books are not tables. And especially, Shastra, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and then on top of that you put, your hat or your cell phone. These are, from one point of view, small things, but these are to be learned among the cultured persons. How to see Krishna everywhere, how to act appropriately with Krishna's things. Even Arjuna is saying to Krishna, this is going to be one of the problems. If I kill the elders, then the culture will be lost. What is that? Kula Dharma. Anyway, the idea is there that these cultural traditions, if we kill the elders, the cultural traditions will be lost. I'm not going to find the verse.
Kulakshaye pranashyanti kula dharma sanatana.
Kula dharma sanatana. Dharma nashte kulam Krishna. Adhar dharma bhibhavachita. Then a dharma will flourish. Then a dharma bhibhavat Krishna pradushanti kulastriya. So the elders have the responsibility to teach, not only to teach, to hand down culture, to train the juniors in culture. So the guru, the mother, the father, the teacher, they have such a responsibility, not just to see that the kids are getting high grades in their exams, and therefore we send them for classes at the age of 2.5, but that they learn culture. They learn to be humble, amanitva, dambitva, tolerant, clean, and ananya bhakti yogena, how to be engaged in the maya ananya yogena, bhakti abhyavicharani, how to be ultimately servants of Krishna. That's the highest culture. Even if a person may be a little rough around the edges, when we see that he's engaged in the service of Krishna, then he's better than all of these falsely cultured persons who finally miss the point of life. Should we stop here? We've gone a little bit over time. I'm mindful of not wanting to
It's 9:07.
use people's time.
A good point to stop here. 9:07, and we can continue on Wednesday evening.
You want to tell us the coming attractions? Who's speaking tomorrow?
Right. So coming up tomorrow and going forward, we have quite a lineup. Let me see.
Tomorrow is Bhakti Mark Swami. Bhakti Mark Swami from Toronto. He'll be speaking on the topic of enthusiasm. And then, of course, Wednesday we'll have Jayadvaita back, and then Thursday we are changing our time slightly to 7:30 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. At 7:30 p.m. we'll have His Holiness Lokanath Swami with us.
Haribo.
And then Friday, Jayadvaita Maharaj will be back, and then Saturday again at 8 p.m. will be.
I'll even be back Wednesday.
Yes, I mentioned that.
Okay.
And then Saturday we'll have His Grace Radhikara Mantra. So again.
And Thursday, my Kathopanishad class is there at 7 p.m. It ends at 8, so that those who want to get both that class and the class on this channel will be able to do so. And the ID and password are in your chat box.
That will overlap because our class starts at 7:30.
So those who want to leave my class early, Or just skip it this time. Right, it overlaps. I could see about starting my class 15 minutes early, but anyway, we'll do something. All
Thank you
right.
for joining. Please keep joining every day.
Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Maharaj.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.